Hello, good day, and welcome back to my channel. I am, as you can see, totally overdressed and ready for this. So, as you can see from the description of this video, we are today going to talk about something that is really hard for me to talk about. Actually, it's equally easy and hard to talk about. It's easy because I really feel in my heart like this is important to talk about. It's something that is like, in origin, we have this word called hjertesak, which is like the cause of my heart. And today's subject is the cause in my heart. So today we're going to talk about bipolar disorder. This is a diagnosis that I have been living with since I was 18. I am now 25. I will turn 26. So we're reaching 8 years since I got this diagnosis, which is, again, equally a long time and not that long a time at all, especially considering that this is something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. I am always going to have to be medicated. I am always going to have to consider if I need therapy for it or some other kind of professional help to live with this. The reason why I have decided I want to talk about this is because I see it's actually there are many reasons why I've decided to talk about this. I have decided to talk about this because I see that there is a lot of confusion out there as to what bipolar disorder actually is. And I see that there is a lot of people that is getting diagnosed with it. And maybe they don't feel like they're being understood. And maybe they feel like they don't really understand what their diagnosis is. And also because I know that it can be really lonely to be diagnosed with this. I am lucky. I have people around me that are diagnosed with it as well. People that have been there all my life and have been such an incredible support for me when it came to settling with my diagnosis and learning how to live with it. But I also know that I am extremely lucky, and not everyone is as lucky as I am. And to the people out there that are diagnosed with bipolar disorder and maybe they are living with a partner that doesn't really understand what bipolar disorder is, and maybe you think it's really hard to talk about and you don't feel like you're able to explain well enough what bipolar disorder is, take a look at this video and see if this might help you. Either show this to your partner, your family, your friends, and maybe it will give them some understanding of what it is, or maybe this will give you the inspiration you need to explain to them what it is you're struggling with. Before I get into this, I want to put in a disclaimer that should be really obvious by now, but I am not a healthcare professional. I am just a person that has had this diagnosis for a really long time and that is trying to create this space, this mentality of openness, because people fear what they do not understand. And the only way to make them understand is to explain it to them. Because people aren't able to read thoughts. It's something we all know. And yet it's so easy to get disappointed or sad when someone doesn't understand you, not realizing it's your obligation to explain it to them so that they understand. Because they can read so much research, they can read so many books, web pages anything about it, and yet they won't really understand it, because what they need is someone like you or me to explain it to them and explain exactly what is going on in my head. So this is what this video is going to be about. This is what we're going to talk about today. And if you're interested in seeing more, maybe get some of the sneak peeks in my daily life, I would jump to the description down below and check out my Instagram. I post a lot of like snapshots into my life, explaining how things like traveling and how difficult that can be, how many thoughts going on in my head, and how my mood can change in the matter of hours, go from being on top of the world and down to the deepest seas in like a few hours. So I post a lot there. So if you think that's interesting, when you see some snapshots of my life, just description down below. I will link my Instagram down there. Okay. I think we're just gonna get started then. First of all, we're going to talk about is a few of the terminologies used for bipolar people. And those are, we can use this really simple. We can say once we have up and we have down. And people who are bipolar, we often talk about up or down, because that's the two most normal moods swings. It's either really far up or really far down. And we also have a few other words we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about being manic and what that means for a bipolar person, and also hypomanic and what that means. I know, really weird words, but it's going to make sense in a minute. So what defines being bipolar is the fact that you have incredible mood swings. And I'm not talking about going from like happy to sad in just like a matter of minutes. I am talking about you have long periods of either really elevated mood and like being really far up or really down. And this swings in like big periods. So we define it as being up when you think your mood is elevated. You can do anything. This is where people that are bipolar get into a lot of crazy shit, because their mood is so extremely up. It feels like nothing can bring them down. Or to say it easy, I don't feel like anything can bring me down. I am the queen of the world. I can do anything. No one can stop me. I have a really, really messed up way of looking at the world around me. This usually ends in me putting myself at risk. Either I overspend a lot of money and I will quickly spend through everything I own. I will not care about my bills or my rent or anything that's really important. I will just think that I can do whatever I want. And so I will spend so much money on stuff I don't really need. And no one can convince me that this is a bad idea. I will also do like directly dangerous things to myself. What is really common when you are bipolar and you have the ups is, oh, this is so embarrassing to talk about. One of the really common things is that you have a lot of sex and without consequences. So you will just bounce around from person to person. You will not think about the consequences of who you are sleeping with or using protection and taking care of yourself. You will just, because everything seems like a good idea at the time. You are impulsive. You don't think things through, and you will just do things because you want it in the moment. which is also why a lot of people who are bipolar and on their up will use a lot of drugs. They will abuse drugs, they will abuse alcohol, they won't sleep, they won't eat. And I know this might not seem like a really big deal, but imagine this going on for weeks, where you don't understand the consequences of what you're doing. You just spend all the money you have, you sleep with anyone you want, you don't sleep, you don't eat, you don't really take care of yourself. You might just jump in a plane somewhere, not thinking anything through. It's really dangerous. You can end up doing a lot of things you regret. And like I said, this is really hard for me to talk about because I have been medicated for 8 years now. So I haven't had like extreme ups or downs for 8 years. But I still remember how it was being a teenager and having all the teenage hormones, and at the same time this. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And what's worse is when you're done and you go down, because you will go down eventually. And when you do go down, it will be bad because you will regret everything you did. You will be incredibly depressed. And this time, you will just stop taking care of yourselves. I remember how bad it used to get. I could lay in my bed for days, just sleeping all the time, watching shows, not really eating anything like nutritious, just eating whatever the fuck I did. Just eating whatever I wanted. And I wouldn't shower. I wouldn't clean myself. I would just lay in my bed and feel like I was rotting away. And it was all I wanted. It was to rot away and cease to exist. This is also when you will get, or at least I did, I get a lot of voices in my head. One of the things about being bipolar is that you can get really bad psychosis. And the most common one I had, which I still struggle with today, is the fact that I would get a lot of voices in my head. I would have 100, maybe 1,000 versions of my own voice just shouting in my head. And what would they shout? They would shout everything, every negative thought I ever have back at me. They would complain about the way I talked, the way I moved, the way I dressed, what I had said 10 years ago in a conversation that I was still feeling embarrassed about. They would draw back up and they would laugh at me. And there is nothing more exhausting than having all these negative thoughts shouted back at you. You're laying in your bed. You just want to rot away. You feel like you want to die. And all the time while you're doing that, you have voices shouting in your head, just reminding you how incredibly worthless you are, that no one would ever care if you died. No one would miss you. They would be sad that they are at your funeral. Then I would just get over it because you aren't worth it anyways. And these, oh my God. Like I said, I don't have these like extreme ups and downs anymore. But I still do have these voices in my head. Some days, it's like today, it's pretty easy to ignore. It's just like a whispering, like in the back of my mind, reminding me what it is. But some days, like yesterday, when I was actually supposed to film this video, it's just paralyzing. I can't do anything. I have all these negative thoughts in my head, and they usually revolve around the thing I am worried about at the moment. So yesterday, for instance, they were explaining why no one would want to see this video, why no one cares about what I'm saying on the internet, why I am so worthless. And it's just like I said, every negative thought you've ever had about yourself shouted back at you in your head. So I couldn't film yesterday. I was physically not able. All I did yesterday was actually lay on my couch, watch my boyfriend play games, and eat ice cream, actually, which I feel so bad about because I'm really trying to not overindulge on sweets. But yesterday, oh my God, I know I did not have the capacity to both worry about the voices in my head and about my weight and my diet at the same time. No. That was impossible. So it ended up with me just laying on my couch. Luckily, I'm medicated, so these episodes like that, they don't happen as often. And like I said, most of the time it's like it's today, where I know they're there. When I do something really stupid, I will hear them, but I can ignore it because today I'm feeling strong, I'm well rested, I can feel my antipsychotic medication working. But I still remember those like really extreme episodes up and down. It was awful. So if there's anyone out there who's watching this and is struggling with those kinds of episodes really going up and down, you can do it. It's not forever. Go get help. Go get medications. I know it's hard. I know it's really, really hard. But I hope you can manage to do it. Because I remember how suicidal those episodes used to get me. But I've learned after many years on medications that suicide is a really permanent solution to a not so permanent problem. So the next time you go up, try to focus on going to get help, because it will get better. It can get better. You're strong, you're amazing, and do not listen to the voices in your head. It's just your head. It's just your diagnosis lying to you. Please don't listen to it. Okay. So that got me a bit emotional, but it's really important to remember. And it's also, if you know someone who's struggling and is bipolar and have those really intense down episodes, which is also called manic depression episodes, please check up on them. They won't take their phone, answer their phone or messages or anything like that because they physically can't. They don't have the strength to answer it. But please don't give up. Please don't let them lay there and rot by themselves, because they really need the help, even though they aren't physically able to reach out and get that help. So please go check up on your friend. They need it. But on a lighter note, so, okay, those are the really extremes of being bipolar. Then we have the two other things I talked about, which are the manic episodes and the hypomanic episodes. I do think that's what they called. I am not 100% sure. but I do think that's what they call. Okay, so manic episodes, hypomanic. Not quite sure, do think that's what they're called. Manic episodes are really normal for a bipolar person, which can often seem like they are absolutely nuts. I remember I have one of the people I know that are bipolar. She struggled a lot in the beginning. And one of the things I really remember that she got like really manic about was actors. She used to get like really, really obsessed with this like one actor, like Johnny Depp. I do remember so well the Johnny Depp episode she had. Oh my God. And because she was manic, she couldn't like really see the consequences of what she was doing. So she would spend all her money investing in every single movie Johnny Depp had ever played in, just so she can watch every movie. And it didn't really matter if it was a good movie or not. The point is Johnny Depp was in it. So she needed to see it. So that's a really good example of the manic episodes. I also remember her telling me that when she got medicated and and she was starting to like feel the medication work, that if she could get rid of like the ups and downs and keep just like the manic focus on something, she would be unstoppable. Because she would, I used to get this too. We would get this like manic obsession with cleaning or like decorating or renovating something. And it's so all-consuming. It's it's hard to understand how all-consuming it is until you see a person that's bipolar go full manic on something where they will not do anything else. They literally can't sit down until the job is done. So if they are manically renovating a whole house, they will constantly work on this, renovating this house with no sleep, no food, no water. They will, no breaks. They will obsessively work on this one task. So it's, again, not safe. It's not the most dangerous thing, but if you know someone that is bipolar and you see them get this like manic obsession on something like that, force them to take a break, force them to drink some water, because they will not do it themselves. They physically, again, can't. Their mind won't let them stop until they have done it or the job is done. So yeah. And they will also, at the same time, they will be, it's very easy to recognize because the way they talk, the way they move, the way they think, you will see that everything is very erratic and very hyper. So it will seem like they are going on a serious overdose on something like caffeine. It's like serious overdose. Also, the last thing I'm going to mention is what is called the hypomanic episodes, which are the ones like that I still get. It's like a combination of being up, but not being like extremely psychotic up, and being slightly manic at the same time. So if you say that days like yesterday, when the voices in my head were strong and were just paralyzing me, that's the closest I come to the down episodes now that I'm medicated. Then hypomanic episodes are the closest I come to the up episodes. So you get a combination of that, like really energetic, manic obsession on something, except that you don't get focused on like one single thing. Many times it will just be like a state you're in, that you're really erratic. You seem really energetic. You seem like you're talking really fast. You are, again, train of thought, impossible to follow. And you will just try to start new projects all the time. nothing that you can ever like finish, but maybe spend a lot of money, invest a lot of time in this, and probably spend a lot more time in it than you would if you were doing this in a healthy, natural way. So it's not as extreme as when you're not medicated and you get the, like we talked about, the ups, because the ups are really, really dangerous and really out of control, while the hypomanic episodes are just where you can feel that your diagnosis is really messing with your head and the way you think and the way you function in your everyday life, which is a struggle. It is, but it's manageable. So, and the best thing you can do if you know someone that is bipolar and struggles with these kind of like hypomanic episodes is really just being there for them. There isn't a lot you can do to like stop them in the really extreme ups and downs. What you can do there is take care of them and make sure they aren't hurting themselves or people around them. But like with days like the one I had yesterday, or like these hypomanic episodes, there really isn't much to do to help them except make sure they get through it on the other side safely. And just like, there isn't a way to stop it. What you need to understand about being bipolar is that it's a disease. No, it's a diagnosis you will have your whole life. And the person you know will never be cured of it. It will be manageable. It will be medicated. Maybe they will use a lot of therapy, but it will always be there. And like big swings in the mood, like the ups and downs like this, or hypomanic episodes or depression episodes, they will always happen. It might take months between each time you see it because the person is medicated and it's manageable. But it's a battle going on inside the bipolar person's head every day, all day. So they never get away from it. And what's also important to know is that a lot of other diagnoses can come along with it. Like me, I struggle with anxiety, a lot of anxiety at the same time, because my bipolar brain will overthink absolutely everything. And that's the manic trait working in my brain. So the smallest little negative setback can make me just fall completely apart. I can be on top of the world, having the greatest day ever, and just feel so strong. And then suddenly something will happen and it will pull me down and make my brain just absolutely lock onto the negative thinking and absolutely paralyze me, because I am unable to escape the negative thoughts in my head. It's hard. I am trying to explain a multifaceted diagnosis in the span of I'm trying to keep this within 30 minutes. And it's really hard because there's so many things with being bipolar. There's so many things people need to understand. And there are so many things I don't know how to explain in such a short amount of time. What I know is that if you know someone who is bipolar, they are struggling every day, all day, to keep sane, to make their brain work so that they feel like they have logical, normal thoughts. And there isn't a lot you can do to help them. It's the cruel fact of life, because the struggle is happening inside their head. And no matter how much you try, can't fight that fight for them. The only thing you can do is really try to understand, show sympathy, try to learn when their brain is locking onto negative things, because then they will need someone to like pull them out of it, and they need someone to be that logical voice, that anchor that makes them stop locking on to negative things and instead actually function. So if you can be that for the person that you know that is bipolar, it's probably the best thing you can do for them. I have those kind of people. I have my boyfriend and my best friends, which are really, really good at it. They have known me for so long now. They can really just smell it when my head is locking and not functioning, and know exactly what to do to pull me out of it. And everyone that is bipolar really needs that kind of support. But that's all I have today. Maybe I will do like a follow-up on being bipolar and like my personal feelings around it. But for now, I guess this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some kind of understanding about being bipolar and maybe some glimpse into how their minds work. Of course, this is a very multifaceted diagnosis with big variations from person to person. So my personal feelings around it might not be exactly correct for the person you know that is bipolar. But in general, the episodes work the same way. So I hope it was informative, and I hope that you will consider subscribing if you like seeing me sit here being awkward, talking about important stuff. And I do hope I will see you in the next one. Okay,